सुजाता गम्भीरत्वात् क्वचन समये गूढनिक्षिप्त गम्भीरत्वात् क्वचन समये गूढनिक्षिप्त
Now we will go to another great novelist called Bana Bhatta. Bana Bhatta was the Asthana Kavi. Asthana Kavi is a politically appointed poet to Harshavardhana in the 7th century, who ruled Kanauj, which is now in Uttar Pradesh. So later when we deal in history, we will see that Harsha Charita, the biography of Harsha, was one of the most celebrated and trusted biographies ever written on a king. Later we have Pratapa Rudriyam and so on. Of course, Harsha Charita offers or remains one of the most trusted works. Now this Asthana Kavi of Harshavardhana, called as Bana Bhatta, couldn't complete a big novel. He started a novel, a very beautiful novel, complicated to those of them of the younger generation who are used to Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, many characters, complicated story. It's even more complicated than that, very complicated, very large. It's called Kadambari. So this Kadambari was written by Bana Bhatta, but it was left incomplete. This was completed by Bana Bhatta's son called Bhushana Bhatta. So his work is of immense importance. Those of you who can get a copy of it can read it and relish it. We are going to move to another great poet called Dandi. So Dandi of the 7th century CE gave a work called as Dashakumara Charitra that talks about the pursuit of love by 10 different princesses. So princes, there are 10. So their pursuit of love, their achieving of their lady of love is what we are going to see in Dashakumara Charitra. So this is written by Dandi. Then we will move to a very different poet. He was a king. So people whom we have dealt with till now, like Kalidasa, be it Bharavi, Bhartrihari, they were all scholars who lived in different parts of the country. Here we have a learned king, a valorous king, who became a great dramatist. And he belonged to the south of India. They ruled the region around the Kanchi region. So Kanchipuram is the capital of the Pallava country. They were called Pallavas, like how we have Cholas, the Pallavas, the Rashtrakutas, the Chalukyas, the Hoysalas. We have had great kings called Pallavas, and historically, through inscriptions in some of the temples and sculptures, we decipher that they were descendants of Drona's son Ashwathama. So Pallavas, amongst them there was a great king, a very famous one called Simha Vishnu. Simha Vishnu was succeeded by his son called Mahendra Vikrama Varman, often referred to as Mahendra Varman the One. And he gave a work called as Mattavilasa Prahasanam. And this Mattavilasa Prahasanam is a one-act play. And this takes on the religious beliefs and the theology that existed during his times in the 6th and the 7th century in and around Kanchipuram in the south of India. So this one-act play begins like this. It brings in a lot of sects of Shaiva and Buddhism. So there was a Kapalin. Devotees of Shiva are called Shaivas. Those who practice the Shaiva religion base their religion on Agamas. There are sciences that direct them. It's called Shaiva Agamas. And there are many branches. Nakulisha Pashupata, there is Kapalika. These are all the names of the branches, the subsects of Shaivas. So there was a Kapalika. He was called a Satyasoma. And he, along with his wife, Deva Soma, Akarantavacha, Strilingam. So Deva Soma, the wife, and Satyasoma, they went to a liquor shop in Kanchipuram. And the Kapalikas were of the habit of carrying a skull. That will be their cup. That will be their bowl in which they receive alms. So he carried a skull. And as they went to the liquor shop, they consumed the liquor. And they left the kapala because they were on a high. They left the kapala, the skull, which is used as their bowl, in that shop. And on their way back, they find that the bowl is missing, and they attribute this to their negligence. So that is when Satyasoma says, I shall not drink from today. And Devasoma says, no, my dear husband, we'll have to continue drinking. I cannot be without drinks. That is when they say and discuss about the Shaiva practices. On their way, the couple reach a toddy shop. Again, out of the interest, the addiction to liquor, they want to buy more liquor and drink. And as they want to buy, again they find that the kapala is missing. So they were confused how to get the toddy in without the kapala. That is when they come across a Buddhist mendicant, a mendicant who followed the Buddhist order. He was called Nagasena. Nagasena was carrying his bowl, and he covered the bowl with his upper garment. So the couple, who is Satyasoma and Devasoma, they thought that this Buddhist mendicant had stolen their bowl. While they insisted Nagasena to show the bowl, Nagasena showed, and he said, see, my bowl is black. And that is when these people say, the couple say, that you have painted our skull black. So there was a debate that was going on, and reaching a certain high in drinking, Satyasoma falls on the ground. So does Devasoma, his wife. And Devasoma is held by the Buddhist mendicant, who falls for a minute for her beauty. Now Satyasoma, who notices this act of the Buddhist mendicant and Devasoma in a posture, thinks that he starts lamenting. He says, my bowl was taken by Nagasena, the Buddhist mendicant. Now he has taken my wife as well. So that is when the king's people catch the three fighting, and they take them to the court of that particular king who was ruling that region. And most scholars opine that king is none but Mahendra Varma. So while he was analyzing the case, that is when a Pashupata, I said that is a subsect of Shaivagama. So there was a person who was a Pashupata called Bhabrukalpa. He comes into the assembly hall of the king and says, I have found a skull. And this skull was found by me as a dog was eating the meat that was inside the bowl and was running away with the skull which is the bowl. That is when the king says, is this your skull? He asks Devasoma, and Devasoma says, yes, this is the skull that was used by my husband Satyasoma. Please give it to us. So the king advises all three of them and gives it to them. So the king, Mahendra Varma, being of course the king, he was not worried about the controversies that will come out of this work. About drinking, about consuming meat, about people stealing, about referring to various subsects of Shaivagamas, about the conflict between Shaivas and the Buddhists. All this could have been a major controversy if a normal person, a scholar like Kalidas or Bharavi had written. Now it's the king. So if you have to fight him, you'll have to wage a war. And nobody had the audacity to fight such a strong king. So Mattavilasa Prahasanam is one of the bold plays, or the boldest of all plays that we see in Sanskrit drama, which was written by a king. So here goes the two shlokas that I'm not reading out the dialogues from the play. Just the Mangalacharanam and the concluding shloka. Bhasha Veshavapu Kriya Gunakrita Nashritya Bhedan Gata Bhasha Veshavashadyanena Sakata Trailokya Yatramayam Nitra Nishprati Vaddhanodha Mahima Yaprekshakascha Swayam Savyapta Bani Badhana Dishatuvo Divya Kapali Yashaha. It praises Lord Shiva because the subsects who have been discussed are of Shaiva Agama. He praises Lord Shiva. Next is the concluding shloka. Shashvat bhutyai prajanam vahatu vidihutam ahutim jata veda vedan vipra bhajantam surabhiduhitaro bhuridoha bhavantu udyat kuttasvaveshu varmeshvapapi vigatavyapada chandratara rajan vantuska shishyat prashamitari puna shatrumalle Nalokaha Shatru Malle. They were often referred to as Mallas, great wrestlers, the kings. So he concludes this with the word Malla because even their subsidiary capital was called Mallapuram, Mallapuram. So which is called Mahabalipuram these days. So we have dealt with Mahendravarman. Now we are going to go to Magha, one of the other great poets whom we saw in the invocatory verse. Upama Kalidasasya Bharaver Arthagauravam Dandinaha Padalalityam Maghe Santi Trayogunaha. Magha was the one who was able to imbibe the best of the similes used by Kalidasa to the matchless vocabulary that used to be used by Bharavi. At the same time, his lines used to be as tilting and as flowing and as melodious as Dandi. So he combined all these three characteristics. One of his very celebrated works is Sishupala Vadham. As we discussed in Mahabharata, Yudhishthira gets his share of land. It is called Kandava Prastham. With the aid of Arjuna and Krishna, they get the forest cleared, and with the divine architects they construct a palace, and Indra helps in the process, so he renames Kandava Prastha as Indraprastha. And to that Indraprastha is a housewarming ceremony performed, the Rajasuya Yajna. So Jarasandha is killed, all the other kings and princes, they all attend this particular Rajasuya Yajna. In that Rajasuya Yajna, when all the luminaries were present in the assembly hall, there was a question as to whom should the first respects be offered. If I have to start distributing something to a group of people, I have to begin with someone. And the first person should be of great caliber. That is when most of them opined that it is Bhishmacharya who was present in the assembly hall who should be respected. But Bhishma stood up. I did mention this in the critical analysis of Mahabharata. Bhishma stood up and said, no. When there is Krishna present here whose one eye equals the blazing sun and the other eye equals the cool rays of the moon, whose presence here adds glory like the stars which add beauty to a constellation, here is Krishna, and when there is Krishna, who am I to get the first respects? Yudhishthira, do not think twice, it is Krishna who needs to be respected. Yudhishthira was doubly happy because Krishna was his relative and Krishna is the person whom the Pandavas loved to the core. So Sahadeva comes with all the paraphernalia to offer respects to Krishna. That is when Krishna's other cousin, that is paternal cousin, his father Vasudeva's sister's son was Shishupala. Shishupala bore huge disgust and animosity towards Krishna from the birth. So he was disgusted with the fact that Krishna was present in the hall, and second, Krishna was offered the respects. So he stood up from his place and started abusing Krishna. He said, here there are people like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Drupada, even Balarama for that matter, who are to be respected. And here you're offering your first respects to the man who went behind the cows and the calves. He was behind the cows and the calves. What has he studied? He claims to have studied in the hermitage of Sandipani for 64 days. What can you learn in 64 days? He went behind women and used to be dancing with them and called it Rasa Krida. He tried to dupe the world saying that I lifted the mountain when there were floods. He told the world that I danced on a snake. Is this all believable? He's the biggest liar in this world. As Shishupala started abusing Krishna, even Duryodhana and Dushasana started feeling a bit awkward. They never thought that Krishna could be abused to this extent. Balarama was angry that Krishna was letting Shishupala go, but then Krishna was doing some calculation. He was counting 1, 2, 3. Balarama asked what? No, Shishupala's mother, who's our aunt, had asked, please forgive 100 mistakes or abuses that will be uttered by my son. I'm counting, I'm just waiting for the 100th to get over. As the 100th got over, the Sudarshana Chakra, the discus from the finger of Krishna, flew and chopped Shishupala's head. So this theme of Shishupala Vadha became a poetry, a literature in itself. So I'll just take up a few verses from Magha's work. He says, Shriyapati Srimati Shasitum Jagad Jagadnivaso Vasudeva Sadmani Vasanda Dasha Vitarantam Ambaradviranya Garbhanga Bhuvam Muni Harihi. As the work, of course, the work doesn't begin directly with the death of Shishupala. Death of Shishupala, Vadham of Shishupala comes in the middle of the work. It begins with a good note where Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, was seated with Lakshmi incarnate Rukmini, and from the skies came Narada with his Mahati, his Veena, as the son of Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is Brahma. So, how he came and saw the divine couple there. Now, how was Krishna looking? Krishna was dark hued. He was a mix of black, grey, blue, and green. So people did not know how to confine him to one color. He was dark in nature. And that darkness of him resembled the darkness of the craters on the moon. So Krishna, whose body resembled that, he says, Satapta karta swarabhaswarambaraha kathorataaradhipalanchana chavihi Vididyute Vadavajata Vedasaha Shikhabiraslishta Ivambhasam Nidihi. So here he says that Krishna's attire, which was yellow and gold in nature, looked like molten gold, and his body above looked like the color, the hue of the craters on the moon. On the other hand, he continues that description. He says, on the other hand, it also looks like the dark oceanic waters that sees many volcanoes that erupt with molten gold like fire in its middle. So, in both the similes, Krishna's garments are compared. In one simile, the garments are compared to that of molten gold. On the other, it resembles a molten gold like fire and the lava that comes out of the volcanoes. On one side, his body is compared to that of the hue of craters of a moon. On the other side, the dark oceans. So this is a beautiful comparison that is being drawn. Next, there is another verse. Angadhi ropita mriga chandrama mrigalanchanaha kesari nishthura kshipra mrigayutho mrigadhipaha. So this is a play of words. He says, see, look at the moon. It is believed that the moon has craters. It's proven by astronauts, it has craters. And from the earth, when we see, it seems to us quite white hued, but we see patches. Those patches are the craters, and those craters take away the beauty of the moon, is our belief. It could have been pure white, but we see the craters, that they are dark. And this moon has developed craters for a certain reason, believe the poets. The poets believe it in a certain fashion, not that Bharavi took a spaceship, went there, saw the moon and came. No. He says there is a reason why these craters have emerged to bring down the beauty of the moon. That's because the beautiful women of India had eyes that were as pretty and as innocent as the female deer. The moment the female deer saw the beautiful eyes of the Indian woman, they, out of shyness, wanted to hide themselves. So they went flying to the moon and hid. Not one, a whole pack of deer went to the moon and hid. As these deer packs hid themselves on the moon, the white moon developed craters. So, moon has given asylum to the deer, yet it is called Mriga Lanchanaha. It should be praised, but it is said that moon which has the stain of a deer, it has given asylum to the deer, but it is said that which has got the stain of a deer. So a moon is referred to as Mriga Lanchanaha. On the other hand, Magha says, Kesari Nishthura Kshipta Mrigayutho Mrigadipaha. Here in the forest, he says, Magha says, there is a lion that is waiting for an opportunity to pounce on a deer. And as the lion pounces on the deer and kills it and consumes it, you know what is the lion called? Mrigadhipaha. That which is the lord or the beloved of the deer. That which kills the deer is called the beloved. That which gives asylum to the deer is the one called as Mrigalanchanaha, meaning that who has got the stain of a deer. How paradoxical this world is, tells Magha. Now, we have completed Magha. Now, it is time for us to get very deep into one of the greatest poets in Sanskrit literature. His name is Mahakavi Kalidasa. Kalidasa, there is a small anecdote that revolves around how he became Kalidasa. We do not know of his original name. He lived in a village, in a poor family, and his only work was to fetch wood, fuel for cooking. So he would go to the woods, the forests, and he would bring the logs of wood that would be used for as fuel. One day, the minister of the neighboring kingdom was hunting for a suitable groom to the princess of the region, who would just ask questions, and only if a person would answer her questions will that person be eligible to marry her. So in order to teach her a lesson to her arrogance, unwarranted arrogance, this minister is in search of a fool whom he could project as an intelligent person before the princess. He comes across this Kalidasa, who was now axing the branches of a tree. Something that the minister noted was, he was axing that part of the tree upon which he was seated. So if he would chop that part off of the tree, he will also fall along with the branch. Understanding that there could be no bigger fool than this person, he disguises this person, brings him to the court of the princess, and says he is one of the best intellectuals found in the world. And the minister somehow tries to answer the questions, keeping Kalidasa as a Vyaja, and gets Kalidasa married to the princess. The first night, well, she was aiming to meet one of the best intellects of her time. She gets to understand that this man was a fool. So that is when, out of frustration, she asked, Asti kaschid vagviseshaha? Don't you have the ability to think intelligently and speak or act? Asti kaschid vagviseshaha? Don't you have a little of the intellect that we all possess? Asti kaschid vagviseshaha? This one statement was very, very hurtful, was piercing the heart of Kalidasa. So he goes to the close by temple of Saraswati and is said to have obtained her grace. And from then on, he is said to have become Kalidasa. Kali doesn't exactly denote Kali. It could indicate the Sattvic deity of knowledge. So Kalidasa took this sentence spoken by his wife, Asti kaschid vagviseshaha, too seriously, and composed 3 different poems based on each of these words. Asti. This word was enough for him to begin one of the biggest poems, the greatest poems, and that was called as Kumara Sambhavam. Astyuttarasyam dishidevatatma himalayo nama nagadhi rajaha. So is how Kumara Sambhavam begins. Then he came across Kaschid, the word. Then he began a shorter work, a shorter poem called as Meghadutam, where the clouds are sent as messengers. Vagviseshaha, Vak, became the starting point to the invocatory verse of yet another magnum opus called Raghuvamsham. Vagarthaviva sampriktau vagartha pratipattaye jagadav pitarau vande parvati parameshwarau. So he had 3 great poems coming from it. Now we will discuss these poems. In Kalidasa's life, the moment he became that intelligent poet upon the grace of the mother goddess, he is said to have worked as the advisor, the poet and the minister to a king called as Bhojaraja. Bhojaraja once informed Kalidasa that one of the greatest poets was coming to their kingdom, and he was worried as to who will debate him. Kalidasa wanted to test the greatness of the poet, so he disguised himself as one of those bearers or carriers of the palanquin, the shibika. He comes over and checks how this poet is. He was carrying the shibika along with the other men as well. Suddenly, cold winds blew, and the poet who was being carried in the shibika, the palanquin, said, Sheetam bahubadhati. The cold air is hurting me a lot. Sheetam Bahu badhati. The cold wind hurts, he said. Immediately there was a retort. From whom? Kalidasa, who was in the disguise of the palanquin carriers. He said, Na tatha badhate, sheetam yatha badhati badhate. What he said was, the cold doesn't trouble us or me as much as how much badhati troubles. What is this badhati? What did that poet say? He said, sheetam bahu badhati. The cold hurts. For that he used the word badhati. But badhati has the root word in Sanskrit which is badha. Badha means hurt. But the word hurt, when used in a verb form, can be used only in Atmanepadam. Atmanepadam in Sanskrit grammar means that which can be used only from the I part, the first person part. I feel hurt by the cold. So, if I am hurt by the cold and the other person isn't, the other person wouldn't know the intensity to which I am hurt. So, I will only know. It is an Atmanepadam. So, if it's an Atmanepadam, you can never use the word badhati. You have to say badhate. So in that case, the poet should have actually said Sheetam bahu badhate. He said badhati. Grammatically it was wrong. So Kalidasa said, the cold doesn't hurt me as much as your badhati hurts. So he said, Na tatha badhate sheetam yatha badhati badhate. So this poet asked, who are you? This Shibika carrier Kalidasa said, see, I am one of the maid servants in the house of a great poet called Kalidasa. This poet said, see, if a servant himself is so intelligent, how will I be even able to debate Kalidasa? And he went back. So this is one instance. There is another instance involving many instances. I am just quoting one. Kalidasa and Bhojaraja. Kalidasa was called to the apartment of Bhojaraja, and Bhojaraja hid behind the door to see what will be the reaction of his very good friend and confidant called Kalidasa. So the moment Kalidasa barged in, he found the king missing and he thought the king was dead for some reason. He started crying. He said, Adyadhara, Niradhara, Niralamba Saraswati, Pandita, Khandita Sarve, Bhojaraja, Divamgate. When Bhojaraja, the king whom I love, Divamgate, has risen to the skies, Adyadhara, Niradhara, people, the subjects have been left orphaned. Niralamba Saraswati, even Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge and intelligence, has been left without a support. Pandita, Khandita Sarve, the existence of scholars is a big question now because Bhojaraja is dead. Looking at the instantaneous feelings of Kalidasa, Bhojaraja was a bit worried. He thought something should not happen to Kalidasa and he came running from the door and said, see, I am still here. That very moment Kalidasa thought, I have already recited a verse that commemorates the death of a person. What if it really becomes true? So he wanted to bless the king. He converted the same shloka that he recited in melancholy into mirth. He said, Adyadhara sadadhara sadalamba saraswati pandita mandita sarve bhojaraja bhuvam gate. Now that the king has come back to earth, Saraswati is happy, the scholars are all the more happy. So he converts the same shloka with a change of a few letters. So that was the intellect of Kalidasa. Now, Kalidasa's works, however or how many ever they have been commented upon by yet another one of the greatest commentators in Sanskrit literature. He was called Mallinatha. If I'm right, Mallinatha belonged to Maharashtra. We don't have too much of biographical information about these poets and especially the commentators, but as far as I have learnt and I have believed, he belonged to Maharashtra. So Mallinatha, after having immensely and intensely commented upon Kalidasa's works, in one place remarks, Kalidasa Giram Saram Kalidasa Saraswati Chaturmukhottava Vidyat Vidurnanyetu Madrishaha. He says, if one has to truly appreciate Kalidasa's compositions, be it poems or drama, if one has to appreciate, first option, one has to be Kalidasa himself. So Kalidasa alone can appreciate his own works. Second, it has to be Saraswati, the goddess of learning. Third, Chaturmukho Tava Vidyat. It has to be her husband, who's the four-headed Brahma. So Kalidasa's works have been so much commented upon that the commentator himself has such a great thing to say about Kalidasa. Now Kalidasa largely the scholars opine some of the works of Kalidasa which are surely his are three dramas. One is Abhignana Shakuntalam, second is Vikrama Urvashiyam, third is Malavikagni Mitram. Likewise, poetry, if we see, we have got Raghuvamsham, Kumara Sambhavam, Meghadutam. So three poems and three dramas have been entirely attributed to Kalidasa without a doubt. But there are a few other works which some scholars opine could be his. The other scholars say it is not that of his, it could be that of his students or a Sishya Parampara. For example, Ritu Samharam, Shyamala Dandakam, we are not sure whether it is that of Kalidasa. I am just taking you to one of the best works of Sanskrit literature from the best of the poets. So this is Abhignana Shakuntalam. So Abhignana Shakuntalam is treated as one of the best dramas to have been ever produced. So much so in the 17th, 18th century, the Britishers, the first work that they ever translated into English became Shakuntalam. So there is one place, if I have to give you a plot about how Abhignana Shakuntalam, what is Abhignana Shakuntalam is, Abhignanam is an insignia. Suppose there is a ring that reminds me of my kith and kin, reminds me of a certain person, that becomes insignia, that is called Abhignanam. Shakuntalam is that of Shakuntala. So Abhignana Shakuntalam is an insignia that reminds one of Shakuntala or reminds to Shakuntala about someone, whichever case, whether you want to use that in the Tatpurusha Samasam or Bahuvrihi Samasam. Now, I will take up a small portion from Abhignana Shakuntalam, the drama, and shall take you across how dialogues were framed. Shakuntala says, now a small point that needs to be noted. Though we call it Sanskrit literature, we in dramas will find all the dialogues spoken by the women. Remember, dialogues spoken by the women in Sanskrit dramas do not be in Sanskrit. So in Sanskrit literature, in Sanskrit drama, the dialogue spoken by women will never be in Sanskrit. They will all be in a language called Prakrit. So, but be it Kalidasa, be it any other dramatist, they will take the pains to give the equivalent Sanskrit line as well. So, Prakrit as a language will go like this. I'm just giving you an example. Amma guruna machuya jiya siya sannami ladda payitto padivaya paramatto varesi apandita attanam ammanam. This is a verse in Prakrit. So it uses the letters, the script of Sanskrit, the letters of Sanskrit, but it doesn't end up using the tough letters. The. It will try to go in such a way that it doesn't trouble your tongue so much. Amma guruna machuya jiya siya sannami ladda payitto padivaya paramatto varesi apandita attanam ammanam. Muhachandamoli dinara majjattiyo tujja chigura barandaro agadiya gadana sattam satchim taveyi dasa satcha samakkam. So this is how Prakrit goes. There was another language which was like Prakrit and suitably used in Sanskrit works as well, and that was Pali. So, Attihi bikko akadayam nattuyetasya jantuno sattam manasa sunnarattanam sampajjayi. This is Pali. So, Pali and Prakrit sound the same, they are different, but they use the same letters of Sanskrit. Sanskrit is very refined and very polished, and I'm quite skeptical whether to use this or not. A lot of the scholars opine it is even sophisticated. So the dialogues of the women will be in Prakrit, but I will end up reading the Sanskrit version. Shakuntala tells, because Shakuntala along with her two friends, her friends were Priyamvada and Anasuya. Priyamvada means the one who speaks so beautifully, who speaks loving words. Anasuya, who is not jealous of anybody. So she was flanked by two friends, Priyamvada and Anasuya. All three of them in the middle of the forest, close to their ashrama, were watering the plants. So suddenly Shakuntala notices a bee. So she gives away dialogue that kind of reminds the reader or the listener that she was troubled by the bee. Na yesha dhrishto viramati anyato gamishyami. She is telling the bee, why are you troubling me? Go elsewhere. Anyato gamishyami. Go elsewhere. Kathamito apyagachati. Why aren't you going elsewhere? Why are you here? Hala, paritrayetham mam anena durvinitena dushta madhu karenabhi bhuyamanam. My dear friends, Priyamvada and Anasuya, come and save me from this little creature who's trying to give me pain. She says. That is when the friends Anasuya and Priyamvada together say, Ke avam paritratum. See, the actions that I'm using has also been mentioned by Kalidasa, whether you have to use your hands, whether you have to shout, whether you have to wink, whatever. He says, the two friends say, Ke avam paritratum. Is there someone who is there to protect our dear Shakuntala? Dushyantamakranda. This is when they use the name for the first time, because Dushyanta was the king who was ruling that region. So they say, Dushyamakranda. They were trying to make fun of Shakuntala. So they said, Dushyantamakranda. Dushyanta, come and save. Raja Rakshitavyani Tapovanani Nama. We are caught in this place or this forest that is meant for austerities. Oh king, come and protect. So this was to kind of mock at Shakuntala, saying that this is after all a bee. Why do you get so worried? So this was the other way of telling, okay, let the king come and protect. They were sure the king was nowhere around, but they were oblivious of the fact that Dushyanta, the king of that region, on that day had chosen to hunt. So his hunting was stopped by a person called Vaikhanasa. And Vaikhanasa stopped the hunting, saying that you should not kill animals in this region because it belongs to the hermitage. So, respecting the words of Vaikhanasa, Dushyanta removes his attire of being a hunter and comes in the attire of a normal tapovana person, a person who's doing austerity. So he is hiding behind the trees and relishing and admiring the beauty of Shakuntala. And now when the two friends call out Dushyantam Akranda, he now thinks, Avasaroyam Atmanam Prakashayitum Nabhetavyam Rajabhavastva Vignato Bhavet Bhavatu Yevam Tavadabhidasye. So he now talks to himself, oh, is this the time for me to come out of the tree and introduce myself? What if I introduce and seeing a royal person, these people run away? Fear not, he says to himself. Now, what should I speak? He thinks and says, let me speak like this. Shakuntala meanwhile says, Kathamito pi maam anusarati. See, I'm trying to run there and this bee is trying to follow me there as well. She complains to her friends. That is when Raja Dushyanta comes in the open and says, Kaha Paurave Vasumatim Shasati Shasitari Durvinitanam Ayam Acharantya Vinayam Mugdhasu Tapasvi Kanyasu. Who is there? Who is it who's troubling the holy, the innocent, the poor, the destitute, the women of these ashrama when they are so holy and so innocent? Who is that who's troubling? He knows what's happening, but this is how he introduces himself. And all the three of them look to the king. And that is when, at the very first sight, Shakuntala falls in love with this man. Anasuya says, she tells the man, she doesn't know it's the king. She believes he is some great warrior. She says, Arya, oh the respected one, na khalu kimapyatyahitam. Hey, it's nothing serious, sir. We're just making fun. Iyamna priyasakhi madhu karena bhibhuyamana katari bhuta. See, this friend of ours, her name is Shakuntala, she's been troubled by the bee. All this while, Shakuntala puts her head down. She's not able to face that man whom she has seen a few seconds back again. That is when the Raja, instead of answering to Anasuya, who's actually giving the reply, now turns his eyes towards Shakuntala and says, Abhi tapovardhate. I trust your good and your austerities, they're all progressing well. She is unable to answer. Anasuya says, Idanim Athithi Visesha Labhena. She tells, Anasuya looks at Shakuntala and says, Shakuntala, we have a guest now. You will have to be hospitable to him. Go get something. Hala Shakuntale, gachotayam, go walk. Phala mishra madhur margam, madhumargam upahara. So, madhuparkam, go get some fruits mixed with honey for this guest of ours. Idam padodakam bhavishyati. Hasn't our father said when there is a guest, we'll have to offer water for his feet to be washed? We will have to do all this, Shakuntala. Do it. The king couldn't take his eyes off Shakuntala, so was Shakuntala not able to move from that spot. That is when the two friends, after having a dialogue continued with the king, say, it's high time. Gautami, the caretaker in our hermitage, will be waiting for us. Shakuntala, come, move, let's move. Shakuntala did not want to move out of the place. She will miss the opportunity to look at that personification of blemishless beauty and valor in front of her eyes was Dushyanta. Dushyanta did not want her to move, but he couldn't control her. She's somebody else's daughter, somebody else's friend. So as Priyamvada and Anasuya walked in the front and Shakuntala hesitantly walked, moving inch by inch, that is when she wanted to see the king again, but she needed a reason. That is when she says, Anasuye, अभिनव कुशसूच्या परीक्षितं मे चरणं कुरबक शाखा परिलग्नं च वल्कलं तावत् परिपालयत मां यावदेन मोचयामि. Hey Anasuye, I think some thorn of a very strong nature has pricked my foot. I will just lift my foot. Will you be able to take the thorn? She lifts her foot. And meanwhile she says, see, my dress has been caught in the bark of this Karabaka tree. Hey Priyamvada, can you take? So as she said this, Priyamvada went near the bark to take the cloth off, her garments off the bark, and meanwhile Anasuya bent down to take that particular thorn off her foot. As these two friends of hers were engaged in helping her, those few seconds of sabbatical interval was enough for Shakuntala to turn back and look at Dushyanta in full. So this has been frozen into a beautiful painting by a very great artist, a painter called Prince Raja Ravivarma. So that famous painting is from Abhigyana Shakuntalam of Kalidasa. How a small incident from Mahabharata has been expanded into a beautiful drama, and at the end of the drama we have had beautiful paintings that emerge from the hands of the great artists. So Shakuntalam remains one of the greatest works. Now I did mention that this was taken from Mahabharata. See, Mahabharata by Vyasa, which reports the true incidents, mentions of a king called Dushyanta who had fallen in love with the woman called Shakuntala, the foster daughter of Kanva Maharishi, but the real daughter of Vishwamitra. And later when she comes with her child to the palace of Dushyanta, Vyasa says Dushyanta was not able to remember her at all. The moment he saw her, he could not remember. He was not reminded of her at all. He had a relationship. He produced a child. She was all these years in the forest, but he was not able to recognize Shakuntala. So then with the ethereal voice, the Ashariri Vakyam, which threatened the king that you will have to accept Shakuntala, is when he accepted. But this small plot from Mahabharata has been taken by Kalidasa and made into a drama. Now he gives a beautiful reason why the king would have forgotten, because it's not so easy for a king who's supposed to be very skilled and talented and good memory power. He's not going to forget the one with whom he has had a relationship. So there is a twist what Kalidasa gives. He says that yes, Dushyanta, the king, had a relationship with Shakuntala in the forest. Now, as this was a marriage not performed through the Vedic rites, it was a Gandharva Vivaham, absolutely love marriage in nature. So as a token of his love and the relationship, he gives away the ring, the royal ring of his, to Shakuntala. This is what Kalidasa says. Further he adds, so every day, every minute, Shakuntala would keep touching the ring, and she felt as if she was touching the king, now that she was pregnant as well. One day, in the absence of her friends Priyamvada and Anasuya in the ashrama, while Shakuntala alone was seated, comes the very, very, very celebrated but an agonizing rishi called as Durvasa. Durvasa, upon his arrival, thinks that people are going to welcome him. He finds nobody. He gets into the ashrama. He finds Shakuntala lost in thoughts. He keeps reminding Shakuntala, Shakuntala, I have come. Durvasa has come, but she doesn't reply. She's completely lost in thoughts. That is when he says, you have been thinking of somebody all this while, Shakuntala. So I curse you that this attitude of yours has even left your guests unattended. Since you have not attended to your guests, and that too to a rishi like Durvasa, who's me, I curse you that whomever you are thinking about all this while, you have your thoughts put on somebody, right? Whomever you're thinking, from that person's thought, memory, you will be wiped off. So it is for this reason that we find later that Dushyanta was not able to remember Shakuntala at all. Then how does Kalidasa take forth? He says later, when there was no other go for her to showcase to the king that she was pregnant with his child, she goes in the boat, and in that process she loses the ring. The ring was the only object that both of them knew in common. So this ring was lost. Durvasa Maharishi, Kalidasa says, gave a route for emancipation. He said that yes, the person whom she is thinking about, from his or her memory, she will move away, but that memory could be bought back if an object that reminds both of them is found. So this ring went missing in her boat ride, so she couldn't convince the king that she is his beloved. In return, what happened? The ring was consumed by a fish which was caught by the fisherman of Dushyanta's region, who opened up and saw the ring, and the ring was given to the superintendent, who gives it to Dushyanta in the absence of Shakuntala, who now remembers Shakuntala and feels a lot bad for having deserted her. So this Dushyanta falling in love with Shakuntala, later forgetting her, has been expanded to a big plot by Kalidasa. So Kalidasa's creativity is on one side. The way he has projected Shakuntalam is the best among all dramas. Now there were two other dramas, two other works, natakams that he has given, which is Malavika Agnimitram and Vikrama Urvashiyam. Malavika Agnimitra is a drama that talks about the love that took place between Agnimitra, the king of Vidisha, he was a Shunga king, and the maiden, the maidservant to his wife. Her name was Malavika. So Malavika and Agnimitra fell in love. So this love has been described in the form of a beautiful drama called Malavika Agnimitram. Next comes another work called as Vikrama Urvashiyam. Vikrama Urvashiyam is the love story between Pururavas and Uruvashi. Uruvashi was a damsel. She got the name Uruvashi. Well, Kalidasa himself writes a beautiful verse. He says, why will Uruvashi not be beautiful? She emerged from the thigh of the Lord. She was a retaliation to Indra. Indra wanted to disturb the penance of Naranarayana. So he sent Apsarastri. The Lord tapped on his chest, thigh it seems, and from the thigh emerged a damsel, an Apsarastri. Since she emerged from the thigh of the Lord, Uru in Sanskritam means thigh. Since she emerged from the thigh, she is called Uruvashi. And later a poet called Vedanta Deshika says, Triratna Karanam Upapatta Tritiya Varanam Daityendra Veerashayanam Daitopadhanam. Triratna Karanam Upapatta Tritiya Varanam. Triratna Karanam, for producing the gem amongst women, of beautiful women, the thigh was responsible. So this Uruvashi, she falls in love with Pururavas. Kalidasa takes it in a very interesting way. He says that Pururavas from the earth was invited to Amaravati of Svargaloka to fight the demons, because Indra couldn't single-handedly manage them. So as the battle was going to get concluded, Rakshasa called Keshi, he abducts Urvashi. So the other Apsarastri like Ramba, Punjikasthala, they all plead to Pururavas to fetch Urvashi back. So he fights the demon and puts her on the chariot and comes. And as the chariot is about to land on the floor, the ground was an uneven ground. Since it was an uneven ground, the chariot had to tilt this way and that way. There was a jerk. And as it jerked, Urvashi, who was already tired, fatigued and unconscious, she leaned on the shoulder of Pururavas. That lean was enough for him to fall in love. So much so that after she reaching Svargaloka and he reaching his palace, he keeps remembering the few minutes that he spent with Urvashi. He keeps moving his fingers on the rest of his body. That is when the Vidhushaka, his jester, comes and asks, why are you rubbing your fingers on one part of the body but not on this hand? He says, this is the part where Urvashi leaned. This is the fortunate part of my body. The rest of the body, I'm so worried, was not fortunate enough to have had the embrace of Urvashi. So he says, Sesho Angam Bhuvo Bharaha. Whatever is left, bereft of the shoulder. See, this shoulder has had the opportunity to lean on Urvashi. So besides that, whatever is left in my body is a big burden to the earth because it has never had the association or embrace of Urvashi. Sesho Angam Bhuvo Bharaha. So Vikram Urvashiyam again is a beautiful drama written by Kalidasa. So is Malavikagrimitra. So is Abhignana Shakuntalam. Now, let's move to the poetry that he has given. Now, the first poem that we are going to be taking is Raghuvamsham. So, Raghuvamsham is divided into various sargas. It is in poem, a poetry form, and it describes the lineage of Ikshvakukulam. So, the kings who were before Rama, he picks and chooses certain incidents and projects them in his very own inimitable poetic fashion. So, here there is a verse. प्रभानुलिप्त श्रीवत्सं लक्ष्मी विभ्रमदर्पणं कौस्तुभाख्य पपांसारं बिभ्राणं बृहतोरसा. At one instance, when the Devas, the celestials, found that the demons were very tormenting and very sadistic in nature, they go to Vaikuntha to seek asylum at the feet of Narayana and they perform Sharanagati. So at that point in time, Kalidasa describes the Lord. He says, Prabhanulipta Srivatsam. So on the broad chest of the Lord is his mole called Srivatsa. And there is seated Mahalakshmi. Lakshmi Vibhrama Darpanam. How does she engage herself all this while? She sees the Kaustubham, the gem of the Lord next to the Srivatsam, which is like a mirror. So she keeps looking at the mirror and tries to arrange herself. Lakshmi Vibhrama Darpanam Kaustubhakhya Papamsaram Vibranam Brihatorasa. So the celestials behead the Lord who had Lakshmi looking into the mirror on his chest. Next, Rama is born to Dasharatha and Kaushalya. Here comes Kalidasa's beautiful verse. Rama ityabhiramena vapusha tasya choditaha namadheyam guruschakre jagat prathama mangalam. So he says that for the entire world, if there is one thing that will begin auspiciousness, Jagat Prathama Mangalam, the first Mangalam, first auspiciousness sign, if there is a word, then the word is Rama. Rama ityabhiramena. The word Rama exemplifies so much with this child because Rama, Ramayatiti Ramaha, the one who gives enjoyment and bliss with his looks and characteristics is Rama. See, Rama ityabhiramena vapusha tasya choditaha namadheyam gurus chakre jagat prathama mangalam. So this is the first ever mangalam that has come, he says. Next, we will go to another work. See, Raghuvamsham is a very large work that talks about Dilipa, how he went with his wife Sudakshina, performed Pradakshina around the king, around the cow that was maintained by Vasishtha, how he had a child, and then later describes Raghu. Raghu was a great king in the ancestors of Rama, and how he performed a yaga, how a Brahmana comes seeking alms after the distribution was over. So how he wants to march against Kubera Patna, and there is a story and the similes are simply marvelous. So I leave Raghuvamsham with just 2 verses because we have a lot to cover. Now I'll take you through another work of Kalidasa called as Kumara Sambhavam. Kumara generally means a young boy, but in our Sanatana Dharma terms, it indicates the son of Shiva and Parvati. He is called Subramanya, Skanda, Sharavana Bhava. So these are the names to him. So Kartikeya, these are the names. So how does this work begin? It has to begin with the Himalayas because it has to begin with Parvati, the daughter of Himavan, who performs tapasya to Shiva. Shiva is under tapasya because he was worried and saddened after losing Dakshayani, Sati, in the fire. So both of them agree to marry. That is when Kama comes and tries to hinder their relationship. He is burnt to ashes. And then Kumara, who's Kartikeya Skanda, is born. Sambhavam is birth or emergence. So Kumara Sambhavam is the emergence of Skanda. But you'll be surprised. Though this work describes the birth of Kumara, the word Kumara Sambhavam was not used by Kalidasa first. It was used by Valmiki. In Valmiki Ramayana, in Balakanda, we find Kumara Sambhavam being narrated in his own fashion by Valmiki. So this was taken as the theme, combined with the other Puranas, and of course with his Sanskrit knowledge. Kalidasa gives a beautiful work. So he describes Himalayan mountains. So he says, Astyuttarasyam dishi devatatma Himalayo nama nagadhirajaha Purva parau toya nidhi vigahya Sthitav prithivya iva manadandaha. So Astyuttarasyam dishi devatatma, in the northern frontiers is this beautiful range of mountains. Astyuttarasya dishi devatatma Himalayo namanagadhirajaha. Even the celestials who wanted flowers from the best of the trees of Himalayas will just bend and pluck the flowers to indicate that the peaks of Himalayas seemed so tall. To an onlooker, they will never be able to see the peak, and the peaks were actually touching the skies. So plucking flowers was easy. Purva parau toyanidhi vigahya sthitav prithivya iva manadandaha. Then while describing the beauty of Parvati, see, this is very, very typical of Sanskrit literature. They will describe the hero, the heroine, the protagonist so beautifully, head to toe or toe to head. Keshadi padam or padadi kesham. They describe of Parvati's beauty. So he says, Abhyunnatangushthanaka prabhabhir निक्षेपणाद्रागम विदोद्गरन्तौ आजह्रुच्चरणौ पृथिव्यां स्थलारविन्दश्रियमव्यवस्थाम्. So the big toenail of the foot that we have is generally referred to as the hallux. So that hallux was slightly raised from the ground compared to the other fingers of her foot. So this in Samudrika Lakshana Shastram says that she will be a ruling queen. So he was so well versed in the other sciences that he will try to intersperse that by producing poetry. Kalidasa was that talented. Now I spoke about a work called Ritu Samharam. Though some scholars feel it is Kalidasa's work, some feel that it is not his work. Ritu in Sanskritam is a season. So he talks about the various seasons like summer, winter, autumn, rainy and so on. So he now describes the summer season. So he says one verse, Raver mayukhair abhita pito brisham vidahyamanaha pathi taptapam subihi avang muko jihvagatihi phani mayurasya tale nishidati. It seems in the summer season, the ground will be so heated up that the snakes find them very, very tough to move on the grounds. So one snake managed to walk very fast, crawl very fast, and come to the shade of a certain place. And while the snake was wondering where the shade is from, it noticed that the shade was offered by the peacock feathers. So the peacock which was resting looked back and found the snake resting in the shade of its feathers. Now the snake looked at the peacock and said, see, its looks were such that, see, this is summer season. It brings even the worst of the enemies together. I know that both of us have enmity with each other. The snake tells the peacock. So the peacock says, what should I do now? Just for this short period of time, let me take rest in your shade. When things return to normalcy after the summer season, we can fight. So summer seasons bring even the worst of the enemies together. Raver mayukhair abhitapito brisham vidahyamanaha pati tattapasapam subihi avangmuko jihvagatihi phani mayurasya tale nishidati. Tells Kalidasa. So Kalidasa, either through Abhigyana Shakuntalam, Vikramurvashiyam, Malavikagnimitram, Kumara Sambhavam, Raghuvamsham, Megadutam, Ritu Samharam, he has been the most celebrated poet in Sanskrit literature. Not that other poets were not, but somehow it is being said. If people would ask who are the great Sanskrit poets, it used to be told before that if this finger, your thumb is chosen for Kalidasa, you should not be counting the other poets in the remaining fingers. It seems you should use your other hand, because if there is Kalidasa, there's absolutely nobody getting close to him. So this is Kalidasa's wonderful contribution.
गम्भीरत्वात् क्वचन समये गूढनिक्षिप्त विश्वा ना स्फुरितरजसा वेधसो निर्मिमाणा नालीकेन स्फुरितरजसा वेधसो निर्मिमाणा रम्या वर्तद्युतिसहचरी रम्या वर्तद्युतिसहचरी